What we're going to be doing today is looking at HTML and web technologies. Now, we're going to do this from a template perspective, meaning we're not going to do everything from scratch. I have videos that show you how to make the HTML from scratch, but it's more important that we get the overall idea of how HTML works as opposed to making it all the way from beginning to end. So if you're following along in the course, what you're going to want to do is go to Canvas. And if you're not following along with the course, it's fine. You will still be able to follow along. And you'll be able to see the code so you can actually duplicate it. So you'll go to Canvas in week 2, HTML and web technologies. You're going to scroll all the way down and you're going to see these resources that you need to download. Go ahead and click on that link, and then you're going to see this folder. You're going to right click on that folder and go download. Once that downloads, you're going to get a zip file, and that zip file will look something like, it's going to look something like this folder right here. You're going to double click on that. And once it opens, you're going to drag what's in there out to wherever you want to save it. And then you're set to go. Now, before we get coding, we're going to have to choose a text editor. And the text editor that we're going to be using in this video and throughout this HTML and web development, it's going to be Visual Studio Code. There's other text editors out there like Brackets and Atom and a few others. If you know some and you want to use those, that's completely fine. They all pretty much work the same. It's about preference at this, when you're dealing with stuff like this. So, but I'm going to be doing the videos in Visual Studio Code, and you can follow along if you like with Visual Studio Code, or if you're pretty familiar with using other text editors, go ahead and use that. So, as I said previously, that by following along in the course, however, you will also have that link to some tutorials on getting started with Visual Studio Code, including downloading and installing it. So you're going to want to go through that and install Visual Studio Code after we downloaded that zip file, opened it up, and now we should have our blog post to be able to complete the requirements that's set here in the assignment here. So after downloading and installing Visual Studio Code, you want to go ahead and open it up. So what we're going to end up doing is going to File, and we're going to open a folder and blog post and select that folder. When you select the folder, under the folder's name, you'll be able to see all the things that's in that folder. And if you look in that folder here in Visual Code, and then you look into the file itself, you'll see the exact same thing. So this is simply a representation of what's in the folder. So in here we have our author JPEG, we have our index HTML, and we have our logo, and we have our styles, and we'll get more into those things. But for right now, we want to learn more about the index.html. Number one, that it's called .html, and that's what makes it basically a web page. If I would have named that index.txt, let's say, and it may not even, it'll open, but it won't open as a web page inside of a browser. This .html actually tells the browser that it is a web page. The second thing that we want to look at is the code. So right now I'm selected the HTML. If I were to right click this and view in browser, what you will see is something like this open up. So what you're looking at here is the result of the HTML that we have here. Now right now there's no styles or anything like that on it, because we're really not talking about styles. We're just talking about the pure content of the HTML page. So when you're looking at this right here, you're looking at headers, these blocky parts, different kinds of headers. You're looking at a paragraph. You're looking at a link. You're looking at the basic anatomy of a web page. This is the best way to learn about it, in that you see it actually working first before you actually start typing and getting into it. So what you're going to want to do is manipulate this page as you're looking at it, also as you're coding in there. So let's just say I change this to something like and I have to save that. So I hit Control S to save it. I'm hit File, Save. You can do it that way too, or just Control S is fine. Once I save that, now all I need to do is go over here, and I'm going to refresh this page. Remove this part. Now you may be asking yourself, what happened? I don't see any change here. But what we did was we went into the anatomy of the HTML and we changed the title. So when you look over here, while none of this has changed, which is the content, we changed the title up here into the tab. So you see it says My Mars Adventure. Whenever I want to change anything that's going to be visible on the screen, I have to go into what's called the body tag. Now here's one thing you need to understand about HTML, and I'm assuming actually that you've read some of the documentation that I gave, or you can go to W3C schools and read the basic documentation. And what I mean by that is here there is a intro to web pages. This will give you the overview of what these tags mean: HTML, the header tag, title tag, body tag, and it also gives you an exercise to be able to go through that. So you're going to want to go through that to get a little bit more detail of what they mean. You can also go here to W3C School to kind of get more detail on that and actually start coding some and seeing the result of it. So go through that if it's really confusing to you as far as the tags. So now that we have our resources, we can actually go through this fairly quickly. So here I have this tag up here, which is the title tag of what type of document I'm dealing with. And basically all you need to understand is that this part right here means that it's an HTML, and this part right here means it's HTML5. And we'll talk more about what HTML5 means. The main thing you need to understand is that every tag, except for this tag, needs a closing tag. So when you have HTML here, you're going to need a closing tag down here. And the reason why we can see it look so well and it's all formatted is because it's in an IDE, a text editor designed to edit HTML and code and that sort of stuff. Visual Studio Code is one of the better ones out there and widely used. So I have my header tag here, and what we had in the header is the title, and that's how we were able to edit that. And what you're looking at here is actually a comment. It's in green, and the way you make a comment is you put this part first and this part last, and whatever's in between there, it won't show up here, or the code will not try to use it. Now inside the body tag, we're not going to really get into what a div exactly is, but really just understand it as like a box that holds something. So now that we know that everything that is inside of this body tag will be presented here on the screen here when we actually load our web page, we want to go ahead and try to now change this one here where the user will be able to see that. So I'm going to go here into my body tag, and I'm going to search down here to this H1 tag, which also has a closing tag. So leaving that closing tag the way it is, I'm going to go change this to this same thing here. And I'm just going to put this in there. Make sure I don't mess with the closing tag. Now I'm going to save it. And now I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to refresh this. And now you can see that that changed. So now what I want to do is now look at the links, and you'll be using links. We use links all the time on websites. And so this is a major part of HTML throughout all websites, linking from one thing to the next, hypertext links. And all the links are going to be going into these tags here, these A tags. And they're accompanied with this property here called href tag. And it has an equal signs here, so it tells you that this right here is where the link is going to be going. So it starts off with quotes, and then it has a close quotes, and inside of those quotes you put where you want it to go. You can go ahead and find whatever link that you like, whatever website you like to go to, and this is basically how you're going to make that link. Now, how does it look over here on the web page? You can see over here, here's our link. If I were to click on that link, it's going to go to google.com. I'm going to go ahead and close that. And you notice it opened it up in a new tab, right? So that's what this target equals underscore blank means. It means it's going to open it up in a new tab. Now I could have done that actually without putting that in there. So I'm just going to remove that and save it. And this is what you want to also do. You want to go ahead and experiment with this file so you can see how things work. That's the reason why I gave you guys the file, so that way you can experiment with it without having to type it out all yourself. So now that I did that and I saved it, I'm going to go back here. I'm going to refresh it. You always have to refresh it so that the page can it can request a new version of the page Otherwise, it'll still be the old version there. That's how the internet works. That's how the websites work. So now that I've refreshed it, I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And you notice it actually went to Google, but it replaced the web page that was currently on. So if you wanted to open up in a new tab or a new window, there's ways to do that. Right now, I put target and I put that equals, and this is a property inside of this A tag, right? So the A tag has two properties that we're using. The href tag, which is this, and then we make a space, and we're now using the target tag, which we don't absolutely need, but we're doing that so that way when the person clicks on that link, it opens it up in a blank tab. Now, here we have link to Google, and that's what the user will see. Whatever between the opening tag here, let me make some space here, and by the way, spaces don't affect the code. So if I could make a space like this and move that so I can see it a little bit better, so you can see that that's the tag. And I'm going to save that, and I'm going to go over here and I'm going to refresh it, and you'll see that nothing actually changes. So over here I have, this is a link that leads to Google, and here's what the user will see. Here's the closing tag. Now over here you're looking at another kind of link. This is a link that leads to an image, and then it also opens it up in a new tab, and it says HTML logo here, and you can see that here. Now if I click on this, what you're going to see is going to say your file was not found. Why is that? I have the name here, but this name here is not equivalent to the name that's in my folder. So when you look into your blog folder over here, you'll see there's a logo.jpg. This one right here is a logo x.jpg. So I only did that so you guys can go ahead and change the name there, so you can get used to editing it, saving it, and now it matches the same name as the name of the logo I have inside of the folder. So remember, when you're referencing something, the name counts. If I change this Google to something else or something small, some small change, I'm not going to get the results that I expect. It's going to go some other place, or it's not going to go any place at all. So that's very important. Spaces don't matter, but syntax, how you're writing the code, actually does when it needs to lead someplace. So these are two kinds of links, one that leads to an image and one that leads to location. Everything else you really don't have to really put that much thought into. Let's just say that divs right now is just a container. I believe I already said that. And that the H tags, when you see these H tags, there's H1 through 6. The H tags will tell you how big the text would be. There's other ways to make it big, but for right now we're dealing with pure HTML. So when you see this H2 tag over here and it says HTML is amazing, you go down here and you see HTML is amazing. So this is an H2 tag. This right here is an H1 tag. So the further up you go, well, it depends on how you look at it. So when 1 is the largest tag and 6 is the smallest tag. Let's do an experiment here. I'm just going to go here and put 6 here. And you notice the interface is trying to help me. The IDE is trying to help me. I'm going to save that, and then I'm going to refresh. And now look at how small that tag is. So what you're going to want to do is experiment with this. You want to go ahead and change this logo X over here to a logo.jpg. And now this right here is not a link. If you look at this open tag, it says IMG, and it has a source, and this source leads to an image. Now this one right here tells the website, hey, I want you to show an image here when you put it in an image tag. But if you can't show an image, go ahead and just show the alternative text. So right now it says the HTML5 logo, because remember I had logo X here and I don't have a logo X up here. So when you go here in your website or your web page, you'll notice here it says HTML logo right here, right? So for anybody who really needs to be able to have the web page read to them, it's very important that you put your alternate text here. Here in the source, I'm going to go ahead and change that to logo.jpg. I'm going to save that, and what you're going to see here when I refresh it, and you're going to see the results are refreshing, this is going to change to an image instead of the words. So I go ahead and refresh that. Now you can see the images pop up there. I can even do this and put a link like this around the image and make it a link that goes someplace. So that's something for you to experiment with. What you're going to want to do with this page is go ahead and start editing it and fooling around with it and change the text to your story that you did in week 1. So this will give you some insight, and use the resources to learn more about the divs, learn more about the A tags, the H tags, the P tags, which is for paragraph, and the attributes that are inside. Hopefully this video was helpful. Make sure you subscribe to get any updates on this, and make sure you share, and I'll see you guys next time.